stomach. I'm looking at this under the microscope now, and we have this enormous collection of whole and fragmented seeds. Most of it seems to just have been swallowed whole, so that's what makes us think it must have been a kind of soup. Because otherwise, if you're eating solid food, then you would chew it much more than this has been chewed.
But there's something unusual about Graubuhl Mann's last meal. More than 60 different species of plant are identified, many of them seeds and herbs. This has led some archaeologists to believe that this was the last supper of a condemned man. David Robinson is not convinced.
I don't think so, no. I think it's, we have a very good find from an Iron Age granary from around about the birth of Christ, where we have some large clay pots with collections of cereals and weeds, which are almost identical to what we're finding in the stomach contents here. And I think the weed seeds were a very valuable supplement, or maybe even a major component of the diet, and were used to make bread and porridge or whatever. A kind of muesli, I think, maybe. This is some of the stuff from this Iron Age granary up in the north of Jutland. Most of it was grain, and here we have a clump of carbonized barley, beautifully preserved. But at the same time in this find, we had large pottery vessels which contained collections of weed seeds. If we look at the weeds that are present, the composition is very, very similar to what we're finding in the stomach of Graubuhl Mann. And we may be able to explain the stomach contents as just being quite ordinary food, and that it wasn't an intentional collection of these plants for ritual purposes. And that's what I tend to believe.
So the forensic investigation turns up little real evidence of a ritual supper. But growing in these fields is another clue. Something that found its way into Graubuhl Mann's stomach by way of a meal. It is called ergot, a poisonous microscopic fungus that infects grain. It is a fungus with a lot to answer for.
This is quite interesting because this is ergot on a wild grass, which is exactly the same situation that we think we have it with the Graubuhl Mann.
Ergot thrives in damp, cool northern climates. It is a fierce natural psychedelic drug similar to LSD, which causes hallucinations and paranoia.
The kind of trip, I'm told, depends very much on what you have on your mind at the time. Their life revolved around religion, so it explains these various amazing visions or experiences which people had under the influence of ergot.
The effect of ergot went further than just hallucinations. When the grain from the fields was contaminated with ergot, it could easily end up being baked in bread. The consequences of continuously eating contaminated loaves included severe gangrene in the hands and feet.
So if you're having hallucinations of a religious nature and your fingers are dropping off and your toes are dropping off, then it's really quite a serious situation.
Yeah, a lot of people died from it. And now we are interested because if he was influenced by ergot when he died, maybe this could tell us something about why he died, why they executed him.
Perhaps the man who was dragged through these trees to face death at Naval Guards Moss was a man driven to violence by ergot-infected bread. He may have been punished as a criminal by his fellow villagers, or murdered because of his apparent madness. Or perhaps Graubuhl Mann was singled out to appease the gods, and the ergot was used to induce a coma, something to ease his journey from this world into the next. The whole story can never be known for sure, but 2,000 years after his death, Graubuhl Mann's reconstructed face has finally emerged, an extraordinary vision from the distant past, pieced together from ancient clues.